Welcome, survivors, seekers, and thrivers. I'm your host, Shari Lee Roberts, psychic medium, energy healer, and living proof that you can transform your pain into power. Each episode, we dive into trauma healing, developing your intuitive gifts, and reclaiming your life. Get ready for real stories, deep wisdom, and a little laughter along the way.
Welcome back. You were going to run to grab a drink and some tips you for my conversation today with the lovely Wendy and brilliant Jean Sime. Hello, today happens to be the VIP marketing concierge for my publisher, KWE. And just today, shout out to everyone, including Jean at KWE. If not for all of them, the bad areas rock stars. My book broken to enlighten would never have seen the light of day. But because of all of them, it is now out and available domestically and internationally. And because of Jean, I am embarking on a national book tour. More on that later. Jean used to be in banking, serving at the highest levels for 31 years. When she was laid off and left wondering what she would do next. Well, on the heels of that came a very serious health diagnosis. Then, shortly after receiving an organ, Jean suffered horrible, unimaginable loss during COVID-19. These things have all shaped how she is today. So let's jump in. Hello. And welcome, Jean. I couldn't be happier to have you here and willing to share a very difficult story.
Hi, Sherry. Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone out there. And Sherry, congratulations on your amazing book that has been published and is out and about in the world. And I can't be happier for you. It's a very powerful story, and I commend you on sharing it because people need to know that they're not alone, and a lot of people suffer in silence, but you were brave to share it. So thank you. It was very much needed, and I couldn't put the book down.
Oh, I love to hear that, but likewise to read you for writing and coloring books that share your journey, that people also need to know they are not alone. Jean, why don't we jump in the year 2015? Where were you? What were you doing? And what happened to
I think we're
you?
paused. Okay, so actually, Sherry, it started in 2013. I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, and we were setting a plan as far as what we were going to do as the next step. My mom was a diabetic, so it's hereditary, but also high blood pressure and sugar issues definitely played a role in that as well. And I eventually came to the conclusion that I had no choice, but I had to begin kidney dialysis. And there's many different options for kidney dialysis. I chose to go to in-center hemodialysis because it's a controlled environment where there are nurses there and technicians who take care of setting the machine up, and I called it plugging you into the machine. And the
Yeah,
dialysis machine worked similar to what your kidney does. So your kidneys are a very crucial organ in your body, and they
yeah,
filter all the toxins out of your blood. When your kidneys fail, all the toxins build up and it's poisonous, and it's just unfortunately it's a matter of time. People can live a long time without dialysis, but everyone's situation is different. My
mhm,
case, that was the best choice because I had so many symptoms with swelling of my lower extremities and trouble breathing from all the water that was in my lungs.
yeah,
And I chose to do the in-center hemodialysis. As I said, that was the best decision and the best choice that I had at that time. So I was still working full time at the bank. I was a vice president, managing, um, different offices, managing many employees, uh, assisting many clients of ours, of course, while doing this dialysis. And I was so happy that I can find a center that was relatively close to home. And I chose to still work because I was okay to still work. And it was such a um, unsettling time that I didn't know, when you're diagnosed with a disease, and that's what it is, you don't know if how much insurance covers, it's all the unknown, am I able to work? Am I able to still enjoy life? Am I able to enjoy my family? Am I able to pay the bills? So all these different things, I'm sure many you understand. I'm sure many of the audience understands as well. So it was a very troubling time, confusing time. And
where you at the time, but was your and how often did you go to dialysis, and how long were you there?
yes, great questions. So yeah, I live in New Jersey. I'm still in New Jersey. So I was there when I was doing when I began the dialysis and throughout the entire journey of dialysis. I was on dialysis for 3.5 years.
Wow.
But before that, when I first started dialysis, I was just very angry because I thought I must have been a very bad person to have to suffer like this. My mother was on dialysis, so I knew what she went through. And that was many years ago. Times are very different. Now, it's more advanced and you have many different options, but you still need to do it to live.
Yeah.
So it took me 6 months to accept it. Let's put it that way. And I thought I could be miserable and still have to do this, or I can accept it and be grateful that they have this machine to help me live. So it took me 6 months before the light bulb went on, and the anger was still there, but I accepted it. And I just tried to make the best out of the worst situation. I would always come in early. I would work till about 4:30. I would get there about 5-ish, and I would go 3 times a week for 3.5 hours, which really was at least 5 hours, because the session where you were actually plugged into the machine was 3.5 hours. That was my time. Everyone has different. Normally it's like 3.5, 4, depending. So by the time you get plugged in, by the time you do your session, if there's no complications, that's a good day if there's no complications, because you have this machine pulling blood out of you and recycling it and pushing it back in. You can imagine the stress it is on your heart, the stress it is on your body, everything. And you're in this room with 20 other people who are sick. And I felt like I was the youngest one. I mean, at that time, I think I was about 50. I think I was. I don't even remember, but it was around 50. And I thought of myself as the youngest because so many people were from like nursing homes, and they would come in stretchers.
Wow.
Some of them, didn't even know where they were. They didn't speak. They didn't have any family who would come visit them. It was really the time that I remember being sick was when I walked in the door. That reminded me every time that I'm sick. Other than that, I tried to live my life the best I could. And in that 6-month period where I was very angry, I didn't share with anyone that I was sick, that I needed to do dialysis. Only my family, maybe one friend, if that, and my boss. I had to tell because I had to leave work early 3 times a week. So it was a struggle, but you know what? I put on my big girl panties on, and I'm like, I want to live. So let's just do this, and let's get to the next step.
You regularly did put those panties
I did.
dialysis painful.
It wasn't really painful except for the needles that they put in your arm. So for them to take the blood out of you and
Yeah,
to recycle it in the machine and to push it back
yeah.
in, they
Mm-hmm.
had these needles. No
Oh,
joke. They look like nails. That's how thick they were. That's how
oh,
long they were.
oh,
Two of them each time. Sometimes they made it right. Sometimes they got it in the vein the right way. Sometimes they didn't. It was interesting. I'll leave it at that. I won't go into the gory details. But if anyone out there has ever been on dialysis, you can understand what that journey is about.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah. And the ironic thing too was I had high blood pressure, but on my dialysis days, I could not take my high blood pressure medicine because towards the end of my session, my blood pressure would drop. I could feel it. It feel like a rush right over me. And I was coherent, not like some of the other, unfortunately, some of the other patients, they relied totally on the team. I
yeah.
made sure that that machine was turned towards me. I educated myself on that machine because
Mm-hmm.
that's your life. That needle
Yeah,
pops out, I could bleed to death. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So I just was an advocate for myself at that time. And those days I didn't take my blood pressure meds because of my blood pressure dropping so low. You can imagine what it does to your body. I would actually have to take medicine to raise my blood pressure.
Oh my
So that's
God.
the you want to talk about stress on your heart. My heart
Yeah,
was totally confused what was going on.
yeah,
But you have to adjust, you have to understand what's happening, you have to know your body. That's key. And you have to make friends with the staff there. I was
yeah.
very blessed. I had a
Mm-hmm.
great staff, very caring, and you're tied to the machine where you can't move your arm. Now you have these two needles in you attached
Yeah,
to the machine. You have this one arm. You cannot move it or else it'll start to beep. And if it beeps, sometimes they can't get it to restart. There's blood clots that go through the machine. Sometimes it's interesting. And then after you are done with the session, I would have to stop bleeding after they removed the needle. So that
yeah.
might have taken another hour.
Wow.
So my session was about 5 hours on a good day. And then I would drive home after that. I knew my body and I knew when I was okay and when I was not okay. And I can say for the 3.5 years, I think I called my husband 2 times to come pick me up. I would sit there. I would sit there until I was okay to
Yeah,
go and drive in my car. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. That is very sad. And advice to know exactly what that machine is doing,
yes,
how your body is reacting, and be able to preempt a catastrophic event if something went wrong during
yes,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And that's
Yeah.
why I chose to do the in center because I had the nurses and the techs there to help me.
Mhm.
I couldn't vision myself home. My husband is not he's not a crisis person. I'm the
Yeah.
crisis person, and the
Mhm.
cat doesn't have opposable thumbs to help me in case
Yeah.
I start to bleed. So he couldn't help me either.
Yeah.
So at that time, I made the best decision that I could. And
Yeah.
back then, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but that was 2015 is when I started. 2013 was when I was diagnosed. 2015 is when I started dialysis. We didn't really have their social media was there, but we really didn't have, at least I didn't know anything about support groups that are out there. All I had was my dialysis family. I had the people that I would see 3 times a week
Mm.
to talk about it, and hardly anybody talked about it. they just came in, did their thing, and then hopefully they left. But I had four very close friends that were in the same session that I was in, and today I am the only one, unfortunately, that is alive. So that's how serious it is. Some people make choices to stop. I mean, it's your right. If you don't want to go through it, I want to live. I wanted to live. I wanted to do what I needed to do.
Yeah.
I took all the medicines that I needed to take. Made sure I went for my blood work to get that done. And being a diabetic, any infections you have totally screws everything up. And it takes a long time to heal if you're a diabetic. If anyone out there is diabetic, you understand. And I was just waiting. I mean, honestly, I wasn't advocating for myself to find a living kidney donor. I don't really think I fully comprehended it because I was sick. And between working and that, I was overwhelmed enough. And I don't think I really was educated enough on that. And that's on me because I wasn't proactive at that time. And I was waiting for, my miracle to happen. I was waiting on the transplant list. And on the transplant list, if people have heard that before, you have to be approved. They just don't say, okay, you're sick, you're on dialysis, we're going to put you on a list so we can get a kidney to save your life. They're not going to give it to anybody. You have to prove that this is a gift. That's a gift of life. You have to prove to them not only that you are mentally strong for it, but that you are compliant with your medicines, and that you're going to take care of yourself and that you're serious. So there are people on dialysis for 10, 15, 20 years. For whatever reason, maybe they don't want to get a transplant or they don't qualify for the transplant. So you have to be very compliant, which I was, listen, you tell me what I need to do. I'm going to do it. And then one day I was at the hospital getting my blood work done, and the phlebotomist, her name is Beverly. She always stuck me. I always went to her because I'm hard stick. And I have a fistula, that's what they use for my dialysis, where they put the needles in. It's your artery in your vein they surgically connect it. So it's a little bit bigger. So they have a bigger space rather than trying to get those big needles in the little vein. It was a bigger space. So I would go and get my blood work, and she was excellent. One shot, she would get it in, and I could only use my right arm for blood pressure, for blood draws, because you can't mess with the arm. Oh, something just fell, by the way, just to let you know. Yeah, a lot of weird things today are happening. And so I would get my blood work done, and one day I did my blood work. She did a great job. I left and I came home, and in the meanwhile, I get a message on my voicemail on my phone, and I listen to it, and she says, "This is Beverly from the hospital." She says, "I know you just left here." She goes, "But you're not going to believe this." She said, "One of my coworkers, Pat, who was a nurse for 40 years at that point, she's a friend of mine. She is considering donating her kidney to you. You have to call her." And I had my sister in the car with me. I'm like, "You have to listen to this because I don't understand. This can't be happening." Just to go back a minute, my sister did offer to donate her kidney to me. But for my own personal reasons, I could not accept it, because my worst fear was if something happened to her and I lived during the surgery, I wouldn't know what I would do. So I was just waiting for my miracle to happen, from a deceased donor.
Det är steg legitimate concern. I have known a gal since we were in fifth grade. Her family, almost all of them, have had kidney disease, and she her nephew, brother, and dad all required a transplant. The day her nephew and his mother went in to have that done, something horrible went wrong, and he ended up passing
Oh my.
away.
Mm.
And since living through that with her, which happened to be the early onset of COVID, I have learned that that happens where either the recipient or donor don't make it.
Yeah. Yeah. And normally, I mean, the rate for the donor is very high for success, and they have very little complications and very quick recovery as well on the average. Of
Yeah,
course, there's going to be, and I'm so sorry about that, there are going to be situations where something strange
yeah,
happens. I mean, that's the risk you take with any surgery, right? When you go in, even if you
right.
go in for, dental surgery, there's always,
Yeah.
a risk of that. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, and the transplant list for New Jersey is about 7 years. It's about 7 years to wait for a deceased donor.
Wow.
So,
Oh
and
my.
that's honestly, that's what I was doing because of the fear that I had. And then now this happened where I get this phone call,
Yeah.
and, I couldn't understand what happened. And, it turned out that when I left, she ran into her friend, Pat, the nurse, and Pat had wanted to donate her kidney to a patient way, way, way back. It was somebody on dialysis. She was having difficult times. She was always coming to the hospital because her fistula had issues. And Pat
Wow.
wanted to donate her kidney. She was just called because she's a loving person. She was just called. But unfortunately, Pat's mom got sick. Long story short, she did not donate to the woman. And the woman eventually did get a transplant. And then prior to me going to my blood work, where Beverly found this discovery with Pat, a little boy was on the news and he was pleading that his daddy needed a kidney. So Pat thought that that was a sign that, hey, this is something I always wanted to do. Let me test for the little boy. So she did. She proceeded with all the tests and everything. But, because the little boy was on the news, luckily a lot of people stepped forward and they found a few people that were a match where they did not need Pat. And meanwhile, she's sharing this with Beverly, and Beverly's like, my goodness, I have a patient, Jean. She's on kidney dialysis. She needs a kidney. Would you consider donating to her? She says, absolutely. I have two. I only have one. So
Wow.
I get this phone call, and it took me literally 3 days to be brave enough to call. I didn't know what to say. What'd you say to someone who is considering saving your life?
Right.
Total stranger. She didn't know me, right? So
Right.
I was on dialysis getting my treatment, and I got the courage and I called her with my one arm. I'm plugged in. I called her, and as soon as I heard her voice, I knew that she had the kidney. She had my kidney. I don't know how to explain it. I just felt it and knew.
Mm,
And she was so
yeah.
kind and so patient. And I asked so many questions because I was just blown away and so confused with everything. And I said, out of everything that I've asked you, I need to know one question. Why would you, a total stranger, donate your kidney to me? I said, you don't even know me.
Mhm.
So she shared, out of the 40 years that she was a nurse, watching someone living off of a machine was the hardest for her. She says, I have two kidneys. I only need one kidney to live. I just want to give back. And when she said that to me, I was like, I remember I put my hand up and it was like, if this works out, I would not know how to thank you.
Mhm.
Now, she was considered an altruistic donor, which means she didn't know me. So she was like a stranger donating her kidney. She
Mhm.
didn't necessarily want to donate it to me. It was something that she always wanted to do. But in my case, she wanted to meet me and she wanted to go through the journey with me. So I was really sick at that time. I had a lot of foot issues going on, and for my own vain reasons, I didn't want her to see me like that. I mean, obviously she knows I'm sick because I need a kidney, but
Yes.
I wasn't ready. Mentally, I wasn't ready to meet her. And then one day I was at the hospital doing a doctor visit, and I called her. I said, I'm here. I'm by this elevator. I said, "Are you free? Would you like to meet me?" And she was right around the corner, and she came as soon as I saw her, because I didn't even know what she looked like.
Mhm.
Almost looked like she could be my sister.
Oh
And we
my.
hugged, and that was it. After there, it was a bond. So it was a very beautiful moment. And then for the next year, I would say we went through all the testing together. So as much testing as I had to go through, she had to go through everything as well, but they have a psychological exam, a psychological testing questionnaire, whatever it is, to make sure
Yeah.
that she's of her right mind to do this and that no one is bribing her, no one is paying her to do this. This is of her own free will. So, yeah, it was
What an extraordinary woman. But what is so deeply touching is you are also an extraordinary human being. I mean, this has deep divine
yes,
intervention
yes,
written all over it.
yes,
Is it typical that all of the preliminary testing takes that long? Okay.
yes, yes. It, it
Oh,
it could be quicker. It really depends on the testing. It's
okay.
literally from head to toe.
Oh,
Outside,
okay.
internally, you name it, any kind of test that you can have, including dental, is
Mhm.
done on dental on me. I'm not sure. They must have did it on her. I'm not sure about that, but dental definitely for me because once you get a transplant, you're on immunosuppressant drugs and you have zero immune system once that happens. So any little cold, any little cut, anything like that, any a little infection in your mouth
Yeah,
could turn bad very, very quickly
yeah,
because your immune system is not there to fight it off. So they want to make sure that you are healthy enough to handle everything. And they want success. Of course, they want the doctors and the
right.
hospitals
Yeah,
want success. Um, so she went through all of those tests and she was on it. And as soon as she finished the test, she's like, okay, she picked up the phone, very proactive, called the transplant coordinator. Okay, what's next? What's next? Because they wouldn't speak to me because I have my own coordinator. So
hmm,
she was the only one that they would speak to. So I couldn't even rush the process. But luckily, we were friends at that point. So we could converse with each other. Where are you? Where am I? And all that. But it did take about a year. I had several complications because I was sick, of course. She had minor things that she had to correct, but she had to lose a couple pounds, like 15 pounds, no problem. Something with her calcium was a little bit too high. They adjusted her diet a little bit. So she was good to go. And then it was in May, the beginning of May 2019, I'm going to work and I pull into the bank parking lot and I get a call from her and she says, well, what are you doing on June, whatever date it was, June 13th? And I'm like, I don't know. What am I doing? She says, well, don't make any plans because I'm a match and we're going to have her transplant that day. And here I am, I have to go to work, right? And this announcement happened, and I'm thinking to myself, is this real? Like, what are the odds? This total stranger, right, wants to
Yes.
donate her kidney to me, and she's a match, a perfect match for me.
Wow.
That is divine intervention. You can't explain that.
No.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
God, you must have the ban out of your mind with joy in those moments that reality did take hold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you were you for some period of time going mentally back and forth like in disbelief that it was going to happen
Yeah.
to elation.
Yeah.
Just all of gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Wow.
I will tell you that I don't even think it really hit me at that point because I was still like in a fog that I couldn't believe it. Disbelief, not disbelief. It's just you couldn't believe it,
Yeah.
And we went for our final evaluation, and thank goodness we did go for a final evaluation because they test you again and they literally test you up until that moment that they put you out. And it turns out that she had pneumonia from something happened at work with the paint that they were using or whatever.
Oh
So
my.
thank goodness, because here my fear, God forbid, they didn't catch that. And she's
Yeah.
on the table and she doesn't survive because of that.
Yeah.
So it was delayed 2 weeks, which is fine. I wasn't, I was discouraged, but I was okay. I was in
Mhm.
good frame of mind. And then June 25th, 2019 is when we had our surgery. And the aha moment was when we were in the check-in at the hospital where you have to like register. And I
Yeah.
was sitting there and I was waiting for her and I saw her walk in and she was rolling her little overnight bag. That is when it hit me
Mhm.
because she could have changed her mind at any point. There's no contract, right? This is her
Right.
free will. I didn't know her. I mean, I knew her, but I didn't know her because she was a stranger. So
Right.
she could have backed
Mhm.
out at any time. So that was our aha moment. And I have to tell you, we were ready to go. We were like, okay, let's go. Let's get this done. I swear, I was not scared. She was not scared or apprehensive or anything. It just felt right.
Yeah.
And she was 67 when she donated to me. So for people out there who are considering to donate their kidney to help a relative or a friend or even a stranger, I would say try it and go to the transplant coordinator of that hospital because they have different age requirements. And 67 was not an issue. She was in good health. She was willing to donate. And lucky for me, here I am.
They are so good to know. I never would have thought that someone that age, though perfectly healthy,
Mhm.
could donate. excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know people, they were in their 70s and they donated. So again, if someone thinks
Oh,
you're too old, don't think it. Get it
yes.
checked to be sure that, you're not able to. If you're in good health, there's a good shot. But again, each transplant center is different. And I just want to share that up until the moment that they rolled us into the operating room, we're in the pre-operation room. I don't know what that's called, and they have a curtain, and we're laying next to each other, but there's a curtain behind us, and the doctor is talking to her. I can hear everything. We're just a curtain between us, and the doctor is talking to her, saying, "Are you sure you want to go through with this? You sure you're not being paid for this?" And all that stuff. And I'm like, "Hello, I'm right next door here." So, but you know what? It was confirmation for me as well that I knew she really wanted to do this. So, as funny, not funny as it was
Yeah.
confirmation for me. And then they roll us into the operating room, and we have two separate operating rooms. What I thought we would be in the same. Two separate ones. And believe it or not, the operating room was the size of a closet. I'm serious. It was, I don't know how big it was, but with all the equipment and everything, it was not big at all. And I was visioning like Grey's Anatomy, where, it's this huge
Yeah.
operating room, and they have like the glass viewing
Yeah.
area up above it. People can
Yeah.
watch it. No, it was a closet.
Yeah.
So I said, "I'm sorry, is this where you're gonna prep me to bring me into the operating room?" They're like, "Oh no, honey, this is the operating room." I'm like, "Oh boy, okay." And the doctor was there, surgeon was there. She's like, "I'm gonna take good care of you." She was a woman. I met her. I wanted a woman doctor, so I was in good hands.
Amazing.
And then the table is like this wide, and I'm like that wide. I'm like, "How are you gonna get that onto there?" And they were laughing. They're like, "Don't you worry." So they put me on the table. They're doing whatever they're doing with all the plugs and everything. And I'm looking at the end of where my feet are, and I see this machine. It looked like a cooler, like a silver cooler. And it was
Mhm.
breathing. It was going up and down, up and down. And I said, "Can I ask what that is?" They're like, "Oh, yes, that's where we're going to put Pat's kidney in before we put it in you." And as a dialysis patient and a patient who has a low hemoglobin, I was always cold. So I said, "Could you at least thaw it out before you put it in me? Because I'm always freezing." So
Yeah.
they, right then and there, they shut me down, and I woke
Yeah.
up and I was in the recovery room. And I have to tell you, I felt 10,000% better as soon as I woke up. I can't even explain it. I was numb. So I woke up and I knew I was in the hospital, but you're a little delirious because of the meds and everything and the
Mhm.
anesthesia. But I couldn't remember why I was there. And then I was feeling around, feeling around. I'm like, and then I felt over there, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, I got that kidney transplant. And my first thought was, how was Pat? I didn't even ask how I was doing. I asked the nurse how Pat was, and she was
Yeah.
good. She was sleeping. They had her knocked out all the way down at the end. So that was, again, my worst fear. I just wanted to make sure she was okay. And then our recovery was very good. I have to say, we were very blessed. Minor bump here and there. In the hospital, they wanted her to be kicked out in like 3 days.
Oh my God.
Me, yeah, but she had a slight issue, so they needed to keep her. And I'm in the room with her, and they tell me, "But you can go home." I'm like, "I'm not going anywhere." I'm thinking this to myself. I'm not leaving her here.
Yeah.
Whatever she's going through, she saved my life. I'm not going to leave her
Mhm.
here. So I'm like, "No, I need at least one more day, because I have to make arrangements or whatever it was." And they're like,
Yeah.
"That's fine." So we came in together, we left together, and recovery was great. I mean, I have to say, and that was right before COVID. So I was used to wearing the mask. Again, you're immunocompromised, especially the first 3 months after surgery. You really, like, you
Yes.
shouldn't go out in public, and you have to be careful of germs and who's around you and wear your mask, not knowing that the next stage was happening with COVID, which was only a few
My
months afterwards. Here I am, ready to live my life and travel and all that good stuff. And then March of that following year is when it hit. So
Okay. Be forward. We move on to COVID. How long did the actual surgery take?
I think it was maybe 5 hours. So what? It wasn't
Yeah,
long.
so,
Yeah, 4 or 5 hours. It wasn't long. No, no. And it was
yeah.
interesting because I didn't even like YouTube it or learn the actual surgery part of it because I was
Mhm.
just like so ecstatic that this was happening.
Yeah.
And I'm glad because I watched it afterwards and it was very interesting, more so on her side because it's more like laparoscopic. So it's amazing that they take the kidney out, and she had three little scars, like little pinholes. No,
Oh,
I had this scar. I had I think 13 stitches, and they put
okay.
it in the front right is where I have it. So
Uh,
they don't remove your old kidneys either unless they're cancerous. Yeah, they don't want to mess with anything unless they have to. So those kidneys,
so
yeah.
they do a bypass, or how is that done? They put the new kidney in, located it in the right front. Then they bypass the band.
Yeah, they must, just
Yeah,
move the veins over, the connections from the back ones to the front. And
yeah,
then the original ones, they shrivel up to size of like little raisins.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's amazing.
Um,
It's amazing what the body can do, for
yeah,
sure.
right.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and how far medicine has come in techniques that I mean, they did it in 4 to 5 hours,
Yeah.
relatively fast
Yeah.
recovery,
Yeah.
and really fast for pay. Miraculous. Oh my God. I couldn't be happier for you. Looking at you, you would never know you went through all of that. You are the picture of health, good health, beautiful, and God love that. We'll talk more about her a little bit later.
Thank you for listening. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're ready to explore your own healing journey or intuitive gifts, I'd love to work with you. I offer psychic medium readings, energy healing sessions, and intuitive development guidance at shariroberts.org. And if you're not quite ready for a session, but want to be a part of the conversation in a supportive community, join my private Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. This is Shari Lee Roberts. Until next time, remember, you're never alone.